Welcome everyone to Real Life Friday. Windermere Homes and Estates with just under 500 total agents. We're in both the San Diego and the Riverside County, as well as all the way east in the Coachella Valley and Palm Desert. And we welcome all of you to another episode of Real Life Friday. So another awesome week, a little bit rainy here in San Diego. It's amazing how that affects everything around here. It's like it's rain. Yeah, like, it's like they always say in real estate, right? Like if you fall in love, you fall out of love, or the weather. That's the three things that change your business, right? The most. I bet some of you resonate with that. Fall in love, fall out of love, or weather. That changes your business the most. But we have the distinct pleasure of having Sandra Loefgren join us. She is with our Scripps Ranch office, but she's got an interesting past. She started back in 2015 in real estate. She's going to talk to you all about that kind of first year, but she ended that year, and in 2016 was Rookie of the Year. She has multiple Circle of Excellence awards with SDAR, and she was actually ranked as top 2% out of 35,000 agents. That's huge. She's got a top ranking here with our Windermere real estate office as well, of all 500 agents. And I sat down with Sandra the other day, and we were talking about just kind of like her business acumen and approach to business, and what really is her trick, and not as much trick, but her strategy, which she will provide tips and tricks, yes, right? There you go. To her business. And I know all of you would benefit from hearing about this, especially this crazy market with a lack of inventory, which we're not going to focus on anymore, because we're inventory makers with Windermere Homes and Estates, right? And she has a strategy for that, and has had an incredible year so far. She's from Sweden, and there's this thing called the rule of Jonti.
The law of Jonti,
law
yes.
of Jonti,
yeah.
Which means that it's not becoming of you to brag. So I'm bragging on her behalf today. So Sandra, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
And I appreciate that. And you just got back from Sweden, correct?
I did. Yeah, I had to go on a family emergency, unfortunately. But yes, okay. I am back.
Yes. Well, you're back, and welcome back to weather more like Sweden, or
I love this weather. So for me, this is amazing.
Yeah.
I love this.
This
is my jam.
Well, you can have it.
Thank you. I'll take it.
But I want to take everyone back to the beginning here.
Yes.
So pre-real estate, it's always helpful for people to kind of know where you came from, and then why you got into this crazy business. So then just the before period, what was it like? So let's start with,
I was old when I started real estate, but so before that, I've done everything under the sun. But the latest job I had just before that was actually running my own daycare, because I had little kids on my own.
That's like real estate.
Yeah,
oddly.
Apply it to adults, kind of same thing, a lot of emotions, feelings, and all that kind of stuff, managing people, right? So that's what I did. My kids grew up, they didn't want to share me anymore. They were in school full time, and I thought, I want to do real estate. And my brother owns one of the biggest franchises in Sweden. So I've always had that, in my family. When I was young 20s, I briefly worked in a real estate office in Sweden, just as like an office gal, and thought, you know what, I'm going to take the shot and do something that I'm actually passionate about and wanted to pursue it. So I thought, what the heck?
Okay, so you took that shot back in 2015. How long did it take for you to get licensed?
It was quick.
Okay.
Yeah,
so
it was super quick, and I made it on the first one. Yeah, that was super quick. A few months.
Was there?
The hardest part was to exit my daycare and close that down, because it was in my home. So that was the hardest part. So that's why I delayed it a couple of months.
Or did you do a clean break? Or
no, I did a clean break.
Okay.
Yeah, I absolutely did. But it was a couple of months that I was like, I don't want to, leave these guys hanging. But I really want to follow my passion. So I did.
I can't even imagine you in a daycare setting of what I know of you. So like, so once you did make that break, were you like, phew, okay, this is a way better fit for me, or did you miss it?
I did not miss it. So if you're a parent out there, I love the kids. Yeah. I absolutely loved what I was doing, and I was really good at it. And, they were super sad when I left, but it was not my calling. It was more a job out of convenience. I was really successful at that as well as an entrepreneur, if you would call it. It was just more of a survival kind of based of my living situation and a divorce and all that good stuff. So
Right.
yeah.
So get going in real estate, and right before the show started, you were like, and I didn't sell a house for the first 6 months.
Yeah, I didn't sell anything. I got my first listing right away, which actually one of my daycare parents. So that was great. However, it had tenants that had just signed that lease.
Right.
So that was a fun one, right? So yeah, I didn't sell anything for the first 6 months, and I just went like, okay, you start doubting yourself, and you figure, you do your best, but then it just kind of clicked, because what we do is, a few months out, anything that we do. I mean, it's not instant business. So yeah, the first 6 months, I closed 2 in one day. 2 weeks later, I closed 2 on the same day, and I just kind of kept it going. And I did 19 sides in the year 2016.
Oh my gosh.
So that's what
no wonder
Rookie
that's
of
the whole
Year.
rookie
Yes,
thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I made over 6 figures
Okay.
that first full year, which ultimately is usually people's first goal, to make 100,000. So
Right, exactly. So, okay, you're right. It's funny because when I started leave it like the way it's. When I first started back in the 90s, I remember going to the owner of the Windermere office and saying, "Can I make 100,000?" Like that was my goal. So you just kind of like,
that's
okay,
most people. Yeah.
and okay, so like, how did that compare to running childcare, like financially?
So that was obviously I would say I was more surprised starting real estate with all the extra expenses that you have, right? Because for daycare, everything was like a write-off, and it was just less overhead.
Other than the snacks, you had the toys.
Yeah, but you wrote all that off. It was a licensed daycare, so everything was, a write-off. So I would say
you were having juice boxes. Personally, right? But,
yes, for sure. No, so I would say, obviously it was after the first year, it was triple the money. Yeah, it was triple. And, when you ran the daycare, it was only so much I could make unless I needed to bring somebody in. And then, suddenly you have, a paycheck.
So the marketing adds up and whatnot, but 19 sides, that's pretty healthy income for 2000.
It was $13.5 million in closed business.
Okay, so hold on. So did you send a postcard out to your family and friends? Nope. What the heck? Okay, this is people like you, like I said, you're an inventory maker. So 2016, things were looking up. Things were going pretty well, but you still had to make it happen.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it wasn't just being handed to you.
So when I sat down, obviously I had a mentor, which was absolutely, huge to have a mentor. But you sit down and said, who do you know? And I went and I felt like I put 5 names on there, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like I'm not gonna, do this. But once you start going through who do you know and what else, and just kind of tapped into it. Like I said, I got my biggest breakthrough being a prime military wife. That was a lot of, the military network, had that connection.
And I know a lot of people have that in their stories.
Yeah, so that was a big one. And then also, like I said, my first chances was for my daycare parents. If they trusted me with their kids, obviously they're going to trust me with their real estate, right? Because that's their second biggest asset.
That was probably your conversation.
Yeah, of course. I'm new, but you know what?
So trust me with your largest purchase or sale as well.
Yeah.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So 2016, 19 sales. How much of that was
open houses? Was a big one too. Yeah, open houses. So I did all kinds of.
But you know what? When you just say open houses, because there's so many that I talk to in this company, they're like, I think I'm going to start doing open houses again. But is there a certain mindset you have to go into to do an open house and successfally pick up a buyer or a seller?
Absolutely.
What's that mindset?
It's that, you're going to acquire, let's say my goal is to, meet 2 new clients today.
Okay.
Set a goal.
Start with that.
Yeah.
Like there's an intention.
Yep. Intention. And then also having your scripts ready, having conversations, not being scared of asking questions, just, being available and not being intimidating, but coming from a place of contribution. I think that was my biggest success, coming from a place of contribution and help. I genuinely want to help you and, get to know you, and maybe we're not a fit. So that was really big for me to, put my personality, out there.
So someone would come in to an open, they would be talking with you. Of course, you would start asking questions to find out what they're looking for, what their motivation are. You would kind of quickly figure out if they were neighbors just checking out like how the kitchen remodel worked out in that house or whatever. Then would you set or do you set an appointment to meet with them later, or maybe start sending them listings?
So it depends. I've actually gone on listing appointments right after an open house,
boom.
like literally in the community. Yep. Make sure I always get their number. I set an appointment there and then, if possible, to be like, hey, do you have time later this weekend? Or what about, this day
So
or this
urgency
day? So,
for you is part
yeah,
of the tip.
you need to
That's
lock them in, not just be like, hey, well,
Yeah.
if you're kind of interested, maybe we can connect later, or, it's just time is of the essence.
Urgency is huge.
Yeah.
Right? Like the solid gold, someone that's willing to have you over
Yeah.
to check out their place, to
Mhm.
give them an opinion on price,
Yep.
value, what they should do to prepare,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
And then you're starting to cement that relationship. You're courting,
Yep,
essentially. Right?
absolutely.
So when do you do sneak peeks for your open houses, like for the neighbors or anything like that? Have you ever done that?
I have done that. We had COVID, so
Yes.
not so much since, but yeah, I would do that. I would set one before, so it's kind of like a special, special open house.
Right.
And I would hand out minimum of 250
Go around.
closest houses, and I would do that physically myself, right?
Mhm.
When you start out, you don't have somebody doing it
Yes.
with you. And then a couple of years later, as my kids got a little older, I had them do it. And then as
Right.
you start making a little bit more money, then you can outsource that part,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
But it's also kind of nice when you do it yourself.
And
because
what are you delivering to the houses? Is it an invite or is it a door hanger?
It's
or-
an invite saying, hey, your neighbor's house is, listed, or, are you interested to
Mm-hmm.
see what your house is worth, or are you looking for a home? So, yeah.
Literally becoming the expert around your listing on each, with the intention again, right, of picking up a couple more transactions.
Yeah. The goal
Around,
should be one buyer and one listing for every listing that you
okay,
have.
so then one becomes
I mean,
three.
that's, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
One becomes
and that
three,
doesn't
but
sound
then-
so huge.
But it's a mushroom effect. So one becomes
Yeah.
three, but then you've got two new ones and then
Mhm.
that becomes three
Yeah.
and,
Yeah. Yeah.
okay,
I mean, because people, if they set big goals and they get scared of them, right?
yes,
So just be like, one listing, you should get one buyer and one new listing.
right.
That's the goal. Obviously lately, maybe that hasn't been
Right.
as easy. We haven't had the people out there with COVID and stuff.
So from a marketing and social media
Mm-hmm.
standpoint, what's your thoughts on marketing for real estate agents and what's the do's and the don'ts there? I'm sure,
For
like
marketing,
all of us, you've stubbed your toe on some stuff.
I
and-
have not. I'm a little cheap.
Ah,
I'm a little cheap when it
okay.
comes to that. So
I
I have
am
actually
cheap.
not bought
I thought you would
leads
use
and
a
stuff.
different word than cheap.
And frugal.
Frugal, yes.
Frugal. Frugal, yeah. No, I've never bought leads. So, I mean, as a new agent, as you guys know, you're swamped. Everybody
Yeah.
wants to sell you something.
Oh,
the
there's a
latest trick and
subscription,
whatever.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you could spend like
All of
money out the wazoo, So I set myself like, you know what? No, I'm not going to do that.
Mhm.
I'm going to tap into my network, and then I'm going to do the marketing around whatever when I got my break, right?
Mhm.
And then, I mean, what I spend, I farm an area right now where I've sold a few. I farm in that area. Word of mouth and just staying on top and connecting with
Yeah.
my clients and
Yeah.
staying in contact with my clients.
Yeah.
That's my marketing.
Yeah.
Throwing events, and we discussed that, right?
Right.
Which also kind of put a little wrench in mine, but still, I had my best year last year. 2020 was my best year in the 6 years. I've been
That's
in
kind of
real
like the
estate. So,
sound bite for the whole thing was
Mhm.
in 2020
mhm.
was your best year,
Yeah.
right? Like who all can say that? I have heard some of that.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of people that have said it was, a harder year.
That's what I heard,
there's
yeah.
Scarcity.
But I think for me, I just kept my head down. I did not let the negativity get into me. I didn't want to listen to that, because I think you create that too.
Mm,
And that
yeah.
you attract that. I mean, as corny as it
You
might
kind
sound,
of
I
get
think
more of
it's-
what you focus on.
Yeah,
So if
absolutely.
you're focused on that negativity. But
Yeah.
what's crazy is saying you had your best year in a year where we literally couldn't do opens,
Yeah.
in a year where everyone was told, stay home,
Yeah.
the sky is falling, right?
I had a lot of repeat clients, and had a lot of clients
Uh-huh.
that obviously realized they didn't want to be in their home, or they wanted to leave the state, or
Mhm.
those kind of situation. It's just kind of trickled down. And like I said, military, they were still moving military.
Oh,
So
that's true.
that was also a big part of mine,
Right.
people
Right.
coming and
And you
going.
do a lot of
they had to-
relocation
Yeah,
like that,
so
yeah.
that was a big one too.
So it's interesting though, during COVID, there's also people that have even more time than ever to be looking at their house,
Mhm.
deciding what they do like
Exactly.
and don't,
That's,
and
yeah.
then spend hours daily looking at
Mhm.
houses.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and you have easier time to actually go see the houses, because it was,
Yeah.
people were working on a more flexible schedule.
Oh, yeah. You
So
just
it
zip out.
wasn't just set for the weekends,
Yeah.
I had clients that went out and showed them on their lunch break, even if they had to be in Zooms all day,
Yes.
they were like, let's sip out, and I could just hop on my call, on the phone
Yeah.
while we're looking.
Right,
So,
exactly.
yeah.
Okay, so what's interesting, what I like about your marketing. It's a lot like how I grew my business, which is largely relational. But there is that farm. So it's not just, it's several pieces. So you've got the open house opportunity to work with people that you don't know. Hopefully, like you said, contribute to them. Find someone that's looking for that. Know what they want, which is actually asking questions. I think that's a big skip, is not asking enough questions. I think as agents, sometimes we try to be interesting instead of interested. And so by asking, I remember I never, I actually had new construction, but I never sat at a new construction site prior. And I was taught that the more people feel like you know what they want and know what they don't want, the more that is so powerful, because rarely do agents really get into the nitty gritty. Like I always would ask like an extra question, like, you want a cul-de-sac, and do you really need a fireplace? And what's most important, you know, for, you know, one spouse, what's most important for the other spouse? And you start asking enough questions, and what you realize is most agents don't ask all those questions. So there's kind of feeling like you know more than anyone in the world what they want. And all you did is just keep on asking questions.
Motivation is what it is. Asking them, what is the motivation?
What's the motivation?
You know, why do they need 3-bedroom, 2-bath? You know, why
the
do they
husband
need
wants
a
a
yard?
third car
They have a
garage.
dog.
She wants a bonus room. Okay, we got the motivation, right?
Well, what is their goal? You know, is their goal to just, you know, downsize or whatever, or, you know, do they have planning kids? Or, I mean, a lot of people shop around their dogs. A lot of the millennials, you know,
That's so
they
true.
want
That's
outdoor space for their doggies. So, I mean, that's a huge one. I usually ask them that question: do you have pets? You know, because that usually leads into a lot of other, you know, reasoning why they need certain things.
Or pets become kids. You know, it's the starting
that's what I'm
deal.
saying. That's what I'm saying. So that's
exactly.
It's asking.
Well, you get, you know, there was a referral that I made up in Washington State just last week, and the client, who lives in San Diego but is not, by the way, selling their house down here, said, you know, it'd be nice to have a backyard that I can like actually throw my dog a tennis ball, right? And you know, it's just so small. So that was like the motivation ultimately for him. Of course, she had a completely different motivation by asking those questions, though. They're like, oh, he knows what I want, right? So there's that.
And to keep him on that track too. If you want to go down that path, I don't know how much you want to discuss on that.
Well, there's that buyers or liars part. So there's the, like, you guys said it was really important to have this, but then all you're looking at really at the end of the day is this.
Well, because sometimes they get, you know, distracted, or they get like frustrated, especially with low inventory, right? So it's just more like, hey, remember you told me this, you know, is this something you're willing to give up? So I think having those continued conversations, building that trust is super important with your clients.
So if I'm a client of yours, do I hear from you daily? What's the?
If it depends. If I'm shopping, a buyer, if we're buyer,
active buyer, fully approved in this market of lack of inventory, I want to spend, I'm going to pick a number, like I want to spend $750. And the closer I can get to Encinitas, the better, but I get it. I'm a little shy there. So
I rank my clients. I rank them as a sense of urgency. You know, are they
and
buyers?
You have them help you with that.
Yeah, of course. I ask the questions.
I love that.
Are you, you know, moving today if you found the right place? You know, I ask all those questions, and I let them know.
I don't really need
exactly. And then obviously then I'll put you on, you know, put you on a search, and I will, you know, touch base with you and say, hey, have you seen anything? But I tell my clients, I sit down with every single buyer and I do a mandatory buyer's consultation. I go over the whole process.
Before you start showing.
Yes.
I love that. That's what I did.
Yes. So they absolutely know the situation and know what's going on, and they can ask me a bunch of questions. I show them what a contract looks like. I show, you know, all the other stuff, and then we set them up on a search. I even show them in the MLS what it looks like on my end. So it's not super sophisticated. It's, you know, reject, possible, favorites, and shoot me a text and say, hey, Sandra, check my favorites. And that's how I try to like communicate.
At those two as they're coming through.
Yeah, I do. Yeah. But it's great if they let me know, because I tell them, obviously I work with more than one client. So, you know, if you want to, you know, meet my urgent attention, I will hop on it and look at it right away. Yeah. I think that's super important.
Yeah, exactly. So what's interesting is that buyer's consultation thing. And
that's huge.
And for those of you who don't do this, was a game changer in my business. And
I've done this since day one.
So there was that period where it was like, oh, so you get a floor call back in the days when there would be a lot of floor calls.
I heard about those.
Although in Del Mar there was a steady stream at our Del Mar office at the Glass there looking at the listings. So our doggy bone and doggy treat or doggy bowl and doggy treats thing and inviting those people in are going to be huge because there's just a steady stream in that area.
Yeah, and some people don't want to. And if they don't want to, they might not be somebody you want to
So
work with.
So
and
the
spend
buyer's
that time.
consultation, when you say one of the first things we do is buyer's consultation, do you bring them into the office or go to their home?
I bring them in. Yeah, with buyers, I bring them in. You know, I ask them when it's
Sellers, you
convenient
go to
for
their
them. Sellers, I go to their home. Yeah, but I do my due diligence, obviously, for safety in our business. You know, safety is huge. But yeah, I want to know, you know, is it the right owner or whatever else? But yeah, buyer's consultation. Get them
Review
in.
the sample contract. Go through
a
your
buyer's
system and
consultation.
process.
Yep, everything.
Explain
you know
how the inspection works.
Exactly. Like we have 3 major timelines, right? Inspection, appraisal, and loan, and then just kind of dumb it down and just make it simple. And then I show them the contract and then they go, whoa. And I said, yeah, I send you a copy of it so you can look at it at your time. If you're working with an engineer, obviously they're going to really want to read it. You don't want to throw that, you know, the offer at them when you're writing it and they go, whoa, and they want to ask you 10,000 questions and you're missing out. So I want them to know kind of what they're going into already. And it eliminates and it makes sure that you really close every deal. It's rarely I cancel. I'm like, knock on wood.
I have not. I don't think I've ever met someone that did a buyer's consultation since day one.
Yeah.
You usually learn quickly that you need to do that. Otherwise, you're just kind of chasing
You
your
become
tail.
a show, you know, you become a
like,
tour guide, you know.
Well, I have different names for it. Some inappropriate, but you're just opening doors and you just kind of like at people's beck and call.
No, I learned that from the beginning. My kids were still little, you know, they were still, you know, I had shared custody with my ex-husband and I had majority of the custody and I just didn't have that luxury to just keep running around. I needed to know that the people I worked with were actually going to be committed to working. Obviously things happen in life and, you know, you might not buy for whatever reason, but at least I weeded out upfront. And I thought that was more important for me and for my family and you know, moving forward in real estate.
Yeah, that makes sense. So, okay. So you had mentioned doing events.
Yes.
I'd love for you to describe the power of events because I know there's a big group of agents that do events within our company and there's a big group of agents that haven't. So explain the events you've done and the result of that.
So I've done, I've done the races. I've done, you know, Cinco de Mayo. I've done just like happy hour. And then a big one is like I do my Swedish Christmas party that I told you, right? So people love that one. It's grown to so big, like all the food and whatever else. And it's great if you can get sponsors, right? Especially starting out as a newer agent. Tap into those resources they have that want to support your business because obviously there is an expense, but you need to see, you know, understand the return.
Right.
I did lose one last year. I told you about that one, right? I lost a client because I didn't have my party. They went to somebody else's Christmas party, just at somebody's house, and happened to be an agent there. And I knew that, you know, they'd even asked me, one of the few that said, are you doing your Christmas party with, you know, the fun, crazy sweaters or whatever? And I said, not unfortunately because of COVID. So that one hurt a little bit.
It does. Well, we've all had it happen. And it's one of those things where people get used to that. You know, there's that superstition part of real estate. So like, I'm sure you're like, no, I'm not going to be missing a party every year. But you know, I have an agent friend with Windermere up in Washington State that just will not stop marketing on the shopping carts, just because, you know, people are used to seeing her face and it's in the area where her farm is. And so she spends a lot of money to be on like the QFC shopping cart.
Yeah, the recognition, you know, obviously, you know, then track where it comes from, right? Where your business comes from. That's important.
Yeah. So there's little things that we do that just keep us top of mind. And it's the sum total of all those things that we do that return. So open house, obviously for you, the relationship with your past and present clients and asking for the referral. You don't ask, you don't get, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So I do that. I do the drawing. Sorry, I forgot about that one.
Drawings.
Yes, a quarterly drawing that goes out and it just has a little box.
Is that an email that suggests
I texted.
Okay.
Yeah, I texted. I know I need to get my like out to emailing too, but I text
We
it
can
and I
help you with
follow
that.
up and I say, hey guys, you know, time for the quarterly drawing, and people get used to that coming in and, you know, they start thinking about like, hey,
And what would be
I
the
don't have
drawing?
anybody for you. Like they feel like guilty. They're like, I don't know, it's gift cards. Gift cards. So super easy, you know, that's,
And so when you, and it's funny, I don't have anybody for you. Well,
Yeah.
everyone really ultimately does have someone
Yeah.
for you. They just have to turn their brain on.
But it's a good thing because
Yeah.
then they at least think about it and you talk to them. And I mean, I check in on my clients just to see, hey, how is it going? Like, what have you been up to? I mean, I think that's important too. And not just call and ask for business, genuinely, become friends with your clients. I even tell them that up front. So just so you know, this doesn't end when we close escrow. I'm here for you with whatever you need and everything and moving forward. And I even tell them during my buyer's consultation, I would love for you to give me a referral end of the day. I want to do such a good job for you that you want to send me more business. That's really important. Even you're setting the expectation already then.
Yeah. Do you go to the signing?
To the
signing, the escrow.
To the signing, escrow signing, not during COVID, I haven't.
Okay.
Yeah, no. And it's been
Did
like
you?
sometimes, yeah, I used to, yeah, but it's been like kind of weird too, because
Yeah.
escrows haven't communicated. I'm not saying ours,
Yeah.
but other escrows, and suddenly like, oh, they signed.
Oh,
Like my
it's
clients are
partly because
texting
they're
me and
going to
like,
their house.
they signed, yeah, like they're signed already. I'm
Yeah.
like, man, okay, yeah. So
Yeah.
a lot of people are signing it.
I'd be curious to hear from the group about going to signings as well, because I think you're right. It's obviously a lot more mobile notary.
Yeah,
And be interesting to hear from the group if that's another powerful
Mhm.
touch point, right? To ask for the referral. Of course, you let them sign and you're just there and you really don't provide much guidance
I
there. You
usually
let
bring
them-
flowers or
Yeah,
something and
something.
just be like, hey, we're doing this, congrats.
Yeah.
Like, because that's pretty much when they buy the house, I feel. So, yeah.
Okay, well, we're going to take a couple questions out there from our moderators, both at the Facebook Live as well as Zoom. Sierra and Melissa, what do you have for us?
I can start, Melissa, if you want. Sure. Okay, so Sandra, we had a question about tips for starting an Airbnb, just because we know you have one. So any tips for people that are looking to invest in Airbnbs, or what do you tell your investors?
I'm working on a second one in Sweden actually right now. So yeah, as far as Airbnb, I think for me, I actually bought that as my own second home. So I don't necessarily dabble in Airbnbs per se and have people buy investments with the intention of using them as Airbnb. So I don't have good advice for that. I just lucked out. Mine has done really, really well, ended up being extremely good investment. But yeah, Airbnb is not my forte.
Yeah. What's some other questions out there?
I have a question. Can I ask a question? So being a military spouse myself and military relocation, how do you find, or would you advise to other agents who maybe have that same niche, to really build that trust, because the military community is so loyal.
Yeah.
And how do you build up that loyalty, that community, and become that authority in that kind of niche?
I think it was because I had
I'm
my
gonna make
day-
sure everyone heard the question. Yes, Sierra?
I think because it started out with my daycare kids, a bunch of them were military, and obviously their time came to leave, and that's how they ended up leaving. And then when they heard people were coming to San Diego, they would sell me on it. So I think it's just, I don't know, if you have a lot of military friends, or if I stayed off base the whole time. I came from Sweden. I mean, we obviously had people that we got to know through the military, but I think my breakthrough was pretty much through the connection through my daycare, to be honest. Yeah, I think that was. So to break through, I think, obviously try to make friends with other military people. If that's all you have, or not all you have, but if that's what you have,
Yeah.
I say tap into that and make sure you're not a secret agent with whatever you do in this business. Don't be a
Yeah, I
secret
like
agent.
that.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. All right, other questions. Melissa, what do you have for us?
So I just want to know what got you motivated in starting real estate.
So what got me motivated was obviously going through a pretty rough divorce. And I wanted more for myself. I wanted to also be independent. As a daycare provider, I was locked in my house all day. I felt like people didn't respect my time. And obviously it's hard to just close your door and put a kid outside the door when you're supposed to be closed. A couple of things like that. So real estate for me.
That's true. The
Yeah.
parents are always late, right? Yeah.
They were, yeah. And to get paid on time and just a couple of different things, right? So for me, the motivation was, you know what? I'm passionate about helping people. This is a way of helping people. And whoever thinks that they're starting real estate and thinking they're going to work little hours or less hours, they learn quickly. I had the expectation coming from, my brothers that owns a whole franchise. I knew the expectation. I came in with expectation. I'm going to have to work my butt off. And like I said, when I didn't have my kids, I work. I mean, you would see me in the office from 7 a.m. till 10, 11 at night. I work on everything. And I think that was my motivation, was to be independent and do something for myself and not having to rely on a man ever again. How dramatic that might sound, but that was definitely a big motivator for me.
Yeah, you wanted to be out
huge.
from under the
Yeah,
dependence.
I left with nothing. So yeah.
Yeah. Other questions out there? That's powerful.
Yeah.
Ellen Watkins has a question. She asked, do you send
Ellen,
out mailers? Do you send out mailers? And if so, what is the content?
So I do a farm. So I have a farm that goes out a monthly calendar. So a monthly calendar of events for San Diego. And on that one, because I sold several in that community, it also states me as the local expert, the expert of that particular community. And I just keep doing those touches. And I had people that call me like 2 years later and be like, I have your thing here on my, on my refrigerator. And I'm like, oh, wow, that's kind of cool. So, don't count on it being, day one or whatever. It's consistently touching.
Other questions? All right. So next up, I have a couple of questions about, it's not always rosy, right? Like working, I mean, there was of course that client that went and bought with someone else or sold with someone else because you didn't interact with them during the holidays. But I would say I want you to describe two experiences. One, that client that makes the whole part about being in this business so special. There's that one client, okay. And then on the contrary, that one transaction or client that almost took you out.
Oh gosh, I know both of those.
Okay.
Yeah, really well. So I
right.
can start with the first one. The first one will be more general. So first time home buyers, absolutely hands down. First time home buyers is my love those because they don't know anything about anything in our business, and those are great. Just to build that and be there from a place. I'm a certified first-time home buyer specialist. And that's also what I tell people at open houses. I ask them if it's the first time. So that one's going to be the short answer. Most horrible client. Oh, Lordy. Yeah, that one. Thank God. I made sure I did not stay in contact or top of mind. They ended up suing the seller, which I had a feeling even going under contract that they were headed that way, just in general, just the interaction and whatever. I made sure that other agent covered his butt because he would tell me things in disclosure. And I said, let's get it all in writing. Made sure I covered myself. Sure enough, they ended up suing that agent and the sellers. Yeah, that poor agent happened to be the neighbor of these sellers. So he had all the history and, I don't even know half of it. Yeah, I guess so. So I thank God I stayed out of that. And that one, don't stay in contact with people that don't add to your business. Honestly, cut that relationship. Yeah, it's toxic. I had sleepless nights. I was very upset about it. I wanted to cut ties, but I felt like I had invested so much time. It was one of those forever clients that finally got an offer accepted. And I just, not all clients are worth having.
Back to the first-time home buyers. Who do you think of first when you think of that special first-time home buyer experience? Is there a certain couple or a certain buyer that you think of, or just in general?
Differs. Yeah, I think that completely differs. I've had some really good one with minorities. Minorities, they're the first ones here, and also being a foreigner myself. Coming from a different country, and they're like, you know what, this is huge. Nobody in my family had this opportunity ever to buy a house, and just that's really, really rewarding. Yeah, or single mamas. That one is obviously dear to my heart. Single military mamas. I actually had one of my clients live with me for a couple of weeks in order to make a deal work. So I do whatever it takes. So single military mamas would probably be my number one, my baby.
Well, I mean, doing 19 deals back in 2016, you've got a huge work ethic and powerful work ethic. But how do you maintain balance in your life? I mean, you still have children.
Yes.
You have a life.
Yes.
All right. And it's not all real estate. But is there a way, or do you feel like you do have balance?
I feel like I do, because I mean, we always work, right? Even if we all say we're taking a day off, we know 100% it's not really a day off unless you have coverage, right? Even like when I went to Sweden, obviously I told everybody I'm leaving. I have, my TC, which is more almost like a personal assistant. She is licensed and she's not even in California, but she could take, field questions
Sure.
and whatever first. I tell them, turn to her first if there's something. And then I have showing help, so I make sure I line up coverage when I'm gone. And I think that's really important, to be able to kind of focus. I really had to focus on my family emergency. And I was still doing deals and got people under contract and whatever. But yeah, just make sure that you tap into other people and resources. We're all here to help each other to build our businesses, I feel.
Yeah. All right. Well, next up on this conversation, and I'd love to hear feedback from our agents as well, or anyone on the show. I want to talk about business planning. We're right in that
Yes.
sweet spot now, October,
Absolutely.
November.
Yep.
I mean, for all intents and purposes, it's already November, right? Like
Yeah.
when it comes to real estate.
Yeah.
It's not too early, again, to be doing business planning. What do
No,
you
you
do?
should.
What's your process?
October, you
You
have
know,
to. Yeah,
mean, there's-
I've been taught since I started real
Do
estate.
you sit
October, you
down?
do.
Do you have
I
a,
sit down. We actually usually do it together, a bunch of us.
Okay.
Like, yeah.
oh, that's fun. So you make
Yeah.
it, and you
And we
dream.
make our dream boards. Yeah,
Okay.
we make our dream boards. We make our goals. I look at last year, obviously, and I try to always push myself,
Mhm.
and also to see where the business came from, right?
Mhm.
And what is my plan and how can I get to that?
Mhm.
I set one written goal in units, and I set one written goal in number, like a number for commissions.
Oh, I see.
So I have
So there's the volume of the people you
Mhm.
work with in general.
Yeah.
And then what they're buying
Yeah.
or selling.
Yeah, so I have two different goals.
And I forget, are you partial to buyers? I think.
No, I have
Okay.
about 50-50.
50-50.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's when people ask you, like, you do work with, I say, I work with about 50-50. That's been this year. So
Yeah.
I feel like that's great because you can still empathize with both sides,
Mm-hmm.
especially, with this market and stuff. So, yeah.
Any thoughts out there, any feedback as well, or questions around business planning for Sandra? Anyone want to jump in? All
I
right,
want to invite everybody to do it,
Yeah.
to come
Yeah.
and we can
And
do
you
it
can
here in the
go-
office.
we could have a business planning party. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. So other thoughts that, you think would be valuable for people to know about business or your approach to business or different things that would be beneficial. So,
Like I said, just don't be a secret agent,
Mhm.
ask for the business, be
Mhm.
out there, tap into other agents
Mhm.
that you and me discussed that before, right?
Mhm.
That's how I become successful, asking successful agents if they will talk to me, if they will share information and what works for them or whatever else. You take little bits and pieces, just because one successful agent is doing everything doesn't mean that that's exactly what you need to be doing.
Mhm.
You need to tailor it to your personality and what your abilities are, and then obviously improve. I feel like I sucked at contracts when I started, and I'm
Yeah.
like, I was terrified of the contracts, but I had a really good mentor that balanced me, that was really good at contracts. And, I learned, and I just went out and used my personality to drum up business, right? I figured everything else can fall into place. So don't feel like you need to know everything in order to start generating business. I think that's a big one.
I know that you're also a premier director.
Yes.
So obviously meaning you do some luxury.
Mhm.
So I'd love to hear, do you like working with the luxury market more than,
Would love to do more.
okay, okay.
You have to do less
'Cause
deals,
I could see
but
you being
obviously.
really good in the luxury space. So
Yeah.
tell us how your marketing differs with luxury versus typical.
I don't think it needs to
Okay.
differ. I think you need to not be intimidated by people that have a bigger budget.
Yeah.
I think that's a big one because people tend to shy away and
Yeah.
you get like, oh, wow, they make so much money or whatever else. And you kind of evaluate yourself. But if you're treating them like everybody, you're going to treat everybody. I treat somebody at 300,000 the same as, 3 million, it's going to be the same for me. So I think don't be intimidated. I think that's what it takes. Just, and if you don't know something, tell them honestly, you know what, that's a great question. Let me get back to you. Don't start jibber jabber and make stuff up.
Yeah, no.
That's key.
There's
If
a lot
you
of
start
respect that
doing
comes
that.
from, I'll get the answer.
Yeah, and especially like send me to luxury. That's usually not their first home.
Mhm.
They bought and sold numerous homes and could be in different states, countries, whatever else. They might sometimes know more than you on certain things. They might be testing you. So don't lie.
Can you get one luxury listing, for example, and then leverage that into more? Like, how would you do that?
I think so. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I have not had enough of those. I wish.
Yeah, exactly. So that could be an intention for
Yeah.
your business plan, right? And
That's definitely
And-
been one to up my average
Mhm.
sales price for
Mhm.
sure. Yeah,
Mhm.
and that's
and what
a
is your
steady
average sales
increase.
price?
I think it's around 750 right now.
Pretty good though.
Yeah. Oh, I think it's
Yeah.
somewhere around there.
Yeah. Yeah.
I haven't checked lately, you put me on the spot.
18, 19, 20 grand a transaction kind of works.
Yeah,
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 right.
yeah. And like I said, I mean, I did a $46,000 mobile home that I closed, Monday this week. So, hey, you know what? I'll take it. If it's for sale, if somebody wants to sell it, I'll take it. Sometimes I had clients that kind of say, like you said, like, oh, I feel like maybe my price point isn't high enough for you to wanting to handle it. And I said, oh my gosh, let me tell you a little bit about my story.
Yeah.
I like had nothing, when I left in my marriage, and I built whatever, and maybe I had boys and all the other stuff, but don't be intimidated. I'm
Treat
here to
every
help you.
transaction
Yes.
the same. You're gonna
Yes,
get
like
the same.
you're,
Yeah.
yeah.
So that $50,000, or $46,000
I want
manufactured
next.
home.
Oh, okay. I was
Oh.
like a third. I'm like, have a good paycheck next week.
Yeah. So one of my first sale, actually my first sale was to Sarah Wallace. I remember a little old lady, $27,000, I think $812 for a manufactured
Yeah.
home in a park, right?
Yeah.
And she had to qualify for the
Yeah.
space,
Yeah.
that kind of thing.
Yeah. Even when I came into him, he goes, oh, okay, you're gonna help me? And
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, I mean, why not? He goes, you don't look like I came in a suit. So
Yeah. So it was in a park, right?
Yeah.
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 And then there's a space rental and this
Yeah.
and that. I remember there was like this agent that kind of owned the neighborhood and he
Mhm.
knew everything about manufactured homes. Marlette's, I think, is the
Uh-huh.
name of the brand that they had in this park. And he pulled up, and I remember in the back of his little Cadillac Eldorado was like 20 empty packs of cigarettes, red box, right? It was that kind of guy. And I didn't even know, talk about contracts.
Yeah.
Like I didn't even know like what
it's
You
a
know,
bit
what
different. Yeah.
contracts to have
Mhm.
together for the manufactured home
Yeah.
thing, which was different because you're not selling,
Yep.
it's different. And he opens up his trunk in those huge Cadillac trunks, and there was just all these contracts laying around, and he gathered it all together.
I've done another one before, and I worked with an agent like that,
Mhm.
but he was using contracts like 10 years ago. And I said, buddy,
No, we
these are
can't. Yeah,
not,
those are old.
these are not
Yeah.
valid
These are-
anymore. When
it's
did you
funny you
sell
say
one
that.
last?
These were all the like pressed hard 3 copies kind
Oh,
of
wow.
things. And then I was worried because I was leaning on him for what should the contract,
Mhm.
what contract. So all I did is I put into the contract, buyer to have 3 days, like for an attorney review.
Mhm.
That was my only protection around this because I was leaning on this listing agent for what contracts we should use,
Oh.
and we had to get it written quick. So at any rate, I covered them with the attorney review.
Yeah.
So other thoughts that you have or
No.
value, any other questions
Yeah,
out
I would
there?
love if somebody
Yeah,
has some questions.
Love, we go
I'm-
open forum
yeah.
here. Kelsey, do you have anything?
And I want to let people
Claire,
also
do you have
know that
anything?
they're always happy to, have somebody come and ask me questions or call me or whatever. I still have, agents calling me that used to be with me in the past, old
Mhm.
office. And I
Mhm.
just, if I can offer, my 2 cents, sometimes you just need to vent to somebody, I'm here.
Yeah. Well, and also, I mean, like even I'm seeing Ellen here, like Palm Desert, all the way down here in Scripps, right? You guys can be working together, obviously, that synergy of working together with,
Yeah.
agents to and from the areas, cross-pollinating our different listings and that
Yeah,
kind
I've
of
had
thing. Huge
referrals from
opportunity.
there, actually.
Yeah.
I've had
yeah,
referrals from there.
Yeah, except for Ellen travels the world, right, for a listing, right? Yeah, exactly. Yeah, thanks for the smile, Ellen. I always love seeing, you're at the top of our screen here. So any other questions?
I have a question. How do you deal with a seller who's asking for a discounting commission?
Ooh, I love
Oh,
that one.
now we're talking.
I love
Now we're
that
getting
one.
into it.
So I'm kind of known for getting the 6%. I
bet you are.
always, I come in with the value. I show them what I'm going to do for them and everything else. I make sure that they know I don't charge for anything else. There's no sneaky, fees coming in later, whatever else.
That's a good thing to say
yeah.
to get your six,
Yeah.
actually.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And you know what I do? I do offer a discount, but only if I double end it.
Yeah.
If we happen to do, I know we're not.
How about
like,
if you help
supposed
someone
to
buy
do that.
and sell?
No.
Okay, so just double.
No, I'm like, nope, not
What's
unless that
discount
comes
if
up
you
later.
double it?
I usually take off 1%.
Okay.
So, that's kind of something I would say up front, because that way they kind of like, hey, because they always want to know what is the fee, what's the fee, right? They kind of want to know that part. I usually have a net sheet with me, a couple of different
Yeah.
ones with different prices. And then I say, hey, it's 6%, we're going to split apart with that with the buyer's side. I negotiate for both sides. But you know what? I'm going to give you 1% discount if I have both the buyer and seller. in order then they feel like they got a discount, right? I mean, it's not very likely that we are going to double end it, and we try not to. But you know what? They already kind of feel like they got a discount. So I rarely have anybody push back. I just show the value. And if they want to start negotiating that, see like, you know what, maybe it's not the best fit. And I set the expectation when I go to a listing appointment and say, you know what, the goal here is today, we're going to sit down, get to know each other a little bit. We're going to talk about your property, your goals and everything else. And then we're going to decide and see if we're a good fit for each other. So I set that expectation, not going in and saying, I need your listing, so I think that's a big one. And then be like, you know what, I asked official questions. Would you like to list with me today?
Mhm.
And sometimes they just say, even before we're done, like, yep, we're done. Like, we want to work with you. So, I mean, and sometimes you don't get all the listings and they might not be worth it.
Yeah.
So I try to hold, value and yeah.
Other questions out there?
Sherry Ralph has a question. She asks, how do you choose your farm and who do you target?
Nice.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah. So I ended up selling a new construction in a particular area. Ended up that I started bringing people down there. They were paying really good. It was a lot of military and it was like a perfect spot. And ended up selling 1, 2. They knew me in the office, whatever else. I thought, you know what? Let me try to be the expert in here, right? And all of those military families I sold, I know that they're gonna, more or less, most likely be leaving, right? So they talked to the neighbors, whatever else. I sold in a building, I think there were 6. I sold 5 in one building. Like, ended up just kind of like kept, obviously in contact with them, hold my events, making sure that they know they can send me referrals from anywhere. I make sure that's a good one for you guys too. Build networks with agents all over in the country. And you can my goal is to do 10 of those a year and just literally just collect checks. So with my military, when they move, I make sure that they let me know where they're going. And if they even know somebody moving from one state to another, it doesn't have to be from San Diego or from California. They can be moving from, Virginia to Tennessee, whatever. I will want that referral and I will send them in contact with a good agent. So build your network. I think that's a good one. Yeah.
All right.
Did I answer the question?
Yeah, exactly. Other questions out there?
Sandra, have you ever fired a client?
Yes.
Why?
Yes. Twice. So not that often, but when you said like when you're sensing that this is probably going to be a legal matter, this is probably going to be an issue down the line, you know what, if they're looking for things to just complain and whatever. I had one very specific that came to mind when you said that. And we were actually under contract. Yeah, we were under contract. And that particular one, she was looking for this and that and whatever. And I said, you know what, I think you should cancel. And after she canceled, I said, you know what, I think you probably should look for another agent. I just wanted to make sure I was off the hook for anything moving forward. I said, I wish you all the best. Maybe now it's not the time for you to buy a home or, based on her situation, or where she was trying to do. I don't even know what she was trying to do. She was trying to get house for free, I think.
What's interesting about that question is that I've always said 1 door closes, 2 doors open.
Yeah.
And there's people on this call right now that I have a nightmare buyer, really, honestly, or seller, right? But sellers are a little easier because the houses are selling pretty quick. The houses that aren't selling quick, there's a fundamental problem right now, right? But it's interesting I don't want to say fire, but you guys know what I mean. Like you're going to gracefully let them go.
Yeah.
When you do that and you say 1 door closed, 2 doors
For
open,
sure.
it's my job to see the doors opening.
It's very true. Yeah.
Now, the biggest part is it's my job to see the doors opening.
Yeah.
And then you're like, okay, here we go. Even though I'm invested and even though I have all this time in, this is better for my health. I feel like I'm going insane to have this client. Right. It's just, there's a disconnect. They've lost way too many brain cells for me to work with them anymore. Right.
No,
and I've always said people, they lose brain cells through the transaction. Right. It's just because of the stress of it. Right.
Yeah.
But
that's another good thing to tell your buyers when you do that consultation, to say, you know what, you are going to have stress. My job, is to take away 99% of the stress. If something comes up stressful for you, give me a call. let me sound,
Yes.
rather than calling, I want to cancel. So
Yeah.
I make sure, and they usually call me and they say, hey, Sandra, I think I picked up some of that stress. Walk me through it.
Right.
And that's really good to be there, to be emotional support for them.
And that's part of your consultation
Yep.
as well, as
Yep.
kind of preloading that
Yeah, you guys can
expectation.
steal that sentence, say,
Yeah.
hey, it's going to be stressful, out of the 100% of stress, my goal is to take, 99 to 98%. And if I can, I will.
Yeah. And then, with the commission,
Mm.
I never get anything less than 6% as well. And not in this state, but in Washington State when I used to sell there.
Yeah.
And it was a confidence of what I was delivering on. And I was meeting with a guy the other day, and he reminded me that he asked, what do sellers really want? At the end of the day, what does every seller really want?
Money.
Right? They want the most amount of money with the least amount of hassle,
Yeah.
period.
Yeah.
Right. And by the way, agents, right, like that are joining this office are Windermere. What do they want? The most amount of money with the least amount of hassle, right? Like we're all so very similar, right? So really, when you prove out that you are providing the most amount of money, your system, you're not reinventing the wheel.
Nope.
This is a system that they're entering into by hiring, right? They will make the most amount of money with the least amount of stress or hassle, right?
Yeah.
That's worth the extra point, right?
Yeah.
Like that's worth the extra point,
Yeah,
right?
and sometimes they need education. They don't understand how real estate, how do we get paid? What's going into that part? Sometimes you need to explain that part for them. And, saying, I do work for a brokerage. Sometimes I blame the brokerage. That's a good one too, guys. Say, you know what? I would love to, but it's not my paycheck. I work for a brokerage and they need their money and I get a cut from that money. So, you can do a little blame game too if you get pushback.
We were I was meeting with Michael and Johnny and Kirk out in Temecula. You guys might have seen our post at Adelaide. Adelaide's awesome, by the way. And we were there and we were talking about my little trick, which was to have the notice of overpriced listing addendum, which essentially was more like just a notice. It wasn't something they signed. It just said that if you're going to overprice your house, right, that you're not going to hold me accountable for lost market
That's a good
time or
one.
blah 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 blah,
Yeah.
right? And it was just a notice, so it wasn't like
Yeah.
I was practicing law.
Yeah.
It was just like, hey, I just want you to know by overpricing it,
Yeah.
unless we agree to a price drop schedule.
I've done that
Yeah.
too, like that part, like you said, like you already agree on that part too.
Yeah.
And then you can do, now it slipped my mind, but I had another good one on that topic as far as commissions.
I'll jump in and then you can
Yeah, do
interrupt.
it.
So the other one that I would do is I'd say, on the commission thing, I already pre-negotiated it down to 6. And then I would explain, like for land, obviously that's 10%. For a condo, that's 7%. And I pre-negotiated because it was a condo, and this is I pre-negotiated with my broker, right, for 6%, right? And I thought for sure I'd get pushback, and what I heard was, "Oh, okay, thanks."
Yeah. No, so I remember what it was.
There it is, I
So
knew it.
yes, it was something that you can also say if you get pushback, and some of you guys already know this and maybe had that training, but it is, you know what, they say, oh, so-and-so is willing to do it for less. I said, you know what, think about this. If they're willing to give up their money so easy, what will they do with your money? Are they really going to
that's
be the
good.
person that's really going to be negotiating like hungrily for you, or are they just willing to give up that money, as easily as they're giving up their commission to you?
Mhm.
And that usually helps too. It gives them that like understanding that, oh yeah, that's a good point. Because you know what, do you want somebody that's just going to go in and is there for a paycheck, or do you want somebody that's actually going to work for you and get it done and make you money? So sometimes it's short-sighted, and like I said, they don't understand how we get paid. So they just see the percent and thinking, well, 1% less, I'm going to make more money. But not if the agent's not doing, their job right, then you're losing more money. So.
Well, and definitely, I mean, for our Facebook Live audience, we probably have some buyers and sellers out there outside of the organization. And it's a huge opportunity, obviously, to work with agents that actually earn their money. And that's worth every cent of that commission, obviously, that less hassle and more money on the sale, especially right now, someone that truly understands how to deal with multiple offers, right?
Absolutely.
And how to parlay those multiple offers in the benefit of the seller,
Yeah.
right? And keep in relationship with all these agents, because even though you think,
huge.
oh, I don't need I've got 11 offers, I'm only going to be nice to one of the
It's
agents.
funny how you mentioned that, because
yeah.
we see a lot of those agents
And-
out there,
and then all
and
of-
when the market changes,
Yeah.
those agents will not be, they go on a blacklist.
So
I
you
mean,
probably
we all
view-
work on a blacklist.
Yeah, there is a blacklist.
There is
You
a blacklist.
probably also need to keep in good relationship with agents if you
Absolutely.
want them to put you at the top of the stack, right?
Absolutely. I attend a lot of events. Obviously, we're getting back to that. I attend a lot of events. I know agents from all kinds of different brokerages. Super important to, have those relationships. And people kind of usually know me as the Swedish agent, if people come and like, oh, I know you. And I'm like, oh, okay, great. So, I mean, just be kind and just, don't talk to people,
Mhm.
come from a place of interest and, keep your way up there.
Love
And the same, if your buyers want to lowball, you know what, say, I have a reputation to uphold. I've given you my, recommendation on what I think you guys should offer in order to get the property. And you can also say no, if you really want to offer 200,000 under ask and it's, a $600,000, condo, that's probably not going to be an offer I'm writing. I'm not writing it, unless I know that the situation is dire for the seller. I explained that we have reputation to uphold. It's a very small community. I mean, if I'm in the top 2%, out of 35,000, you can see how, it's not that many agents that actually make regular business. A lot of people have licenses, but I think that's super important too, to keep those relationships. It makes a huge difference. I've done like 3 deals alone this year based on who do I know that knows who and whatever else, and just call in those favors, call in those favors, have people vouch for you. It goes really far.
2 more questions with Sandra, and then we're going to wish you guys all a great weekend. First question, what would yourself today tell your 20-year-old self?
Oh gosh, I was wild in my 20s. I
Really?
lived all around the world. So actually, when I was 20, I started working at McDonald's at 14. I always worked. Since I was 14, I started working, had 3 different jobs at that point. And
Sandra Loefgren worked at McDonald's.
I was actually the assistant restaurant manager.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
So I actually ran a whole one. The actual restaurant manager was having a baby and did whatever else. So I ran a whole restaurant. Plus I had 2 other jobs on the side at that point.
Yeah.
So I was 23.
Yeah.
So I would tell myself to believe in myself more, I think.
Nice.
Yeah. To believe in
Yeah.
myself. Because, people see a certain persona or whatever, but I had a lot of self-doubt,
Yeah.
I'm not perfect. And,
Sure,
it's a daily struggle with things like that. And I think a lot of you guys can relate. People think that you have everything together. Like, oh, she looks like she has her life all, together. Trust me, it's not always
I
what
love
it
that.
looks
I
like.
like
So,
that. I like that vulnerability.
yeah.
And
so-
then we know that about you too, because
Yeah.
there was this evolution that happened, through, the ending of your marriage,
Yeah.
obviously, and just becoming.
moving from the other side of the world, just like
there
giving
that
up
and then
everything that you know,
independence
and yeah.
versus dependence.
Yep.
So that's powerful. So believe yourself. Okay. And then the last question is, what would you today tell your
In 20 years.
yeah, tell your 60-year-old self.
My 60-plus-year-old self. I would tell myself that, you know what, I'm hoping that I get to do what I love. If I still love real estate, sure, I want to do that. I do want to still build wealth as we get to that.
Mhm.
My goal starting real estate was to add a house every 2 years, and I'm on my 3rd property now, which is going to be closing. They've all been closing in November, which is kind of
Mhm.
funny. So just build wealth and, be able to enjoy the moment as
Yes.
well, right? But also think about the future a little bit. I don't want to just work, and then hope one day that I'm going to have some time and enjoy myself and whatever. So I try to seize the day, but also be a little bit more sensible maybe than my 20-year-old self in that sense, like,
Yeah.
so.
Well, Sandra, thank you so
Thank
much for
you.
joining Real Life Fridays. It's just been a joy. I
Thank you
know
for having
based
me.
on the questions out there and the attendance that we've had both on Facebook and Zoom, that this has been a powerful
Thank you.
hour for our agent team. And so on behalf of Real Life Fridays, Rich Johnson, Windermere Homes and Estates, we hope all of you guys have a wonderful weekend, and we'll be back in a couple weeks. Stay strong. And if you need a raise, sell a house. All right.